and strategic implementation. And this is my presentation outline, and hope I don't bring any kind of redundancy with that. I'll start with the introduction of what innovation is, then I'll quickly move on to why innovation is required today. Next, I'll talk about the types of innovation, and then how learning and innovation are interrelated, and that will lead us to a model connecting knowledge management, learning, and innovation. Next, we'll discuss the S-curve, the concept of S-curve, and we'll see how Microsoft has implemented these concepts and models, and that's bring us to the end of our presentation. So, what is innovation? Sunbo defined innovation as the process of transforming ideas or inventions which are the point of departure into reality. Now, this means transformation of invention into process or product and conversion of new knowledge. The new idea or invention is very much part of the innovation process, and without it there would be no innovation. It is primarily a matter of actions and decisions. Now, why innovation is required? In Schumpeter's theory, the dynamics of a firm was about the disturbance of the normal economic equilibrium, and change was an exception. But today, society changes much faster than Schumpeter's time, and firms have become much more change-oriented. The economy is moving towards a situation where equilibrium is rare and of shorter duration. And what makes it more interesting is that the economy is becoming more global, and movements far away in the world have greater impact on our own economy. What are the types of innovation? Now, we've seen product innovation where you see new and better products coming in the marketplace every now and then. Then there is process innovation, which can help an organization achieve cost leadership as well as differentiation by improving their processes in terms of manufacturing or even in distribution today. And next is organizational innovation, which with the example of Telstra, we've seen how organizations are shifting from a hierarchical structure towards being a flatter organization. Now, learning and innovation. For innovation to occur, learning must take place at both the individual as well as organizational levels. An organization would need to improve its processes of thinking, communication, and leading to implement and manage change in the organization. With that, we would come to a model which connects knowledge management, learning, and innovation. Now, first, data or observation of an organization must be classified into patterns over time to get information. This information must be processed to understand any cause and effect relationship for it to be considered as knowledge. And if this knowledge management leads to changes in capabilities, then learning has occurred in the organization. And due to this learning, there can be product, process, or service innovation. And if this entire process leads to developing, maintaining, or extending a strategic capability, then a dynamic capability exists in the organization. And we all know that today, competition in the industry is not just about the current existing capabilities, but also about creating and building new capabilities and further extending and maintaining those over a period of time. The next concept which I'm going to discuss is the S-curve. The concept of S-curve is particularly used in technological innovation. It proposes that the progress of most innovations when measuring performance against effort follows a typical S-curve. Now initially, development of new technology in terms of usefulness to buyers appears to make little progress, but then at a certain point it takes off, but eventually the technology reaches its maximum potential and the curve begins to flatten. Now when the curve begins to flatten, no matter how much additional investment one makes, the return wouldn't be in the same proportion as compared to the investment, and therefore the initial S-curve is overtaken by the next S-curve. The important point to note here is the timing when the investment in next S-curve should be made, and that should be before the existing S-curve begins to flatten. Otherwise, if an organization waits, it will be too late, and the advantage would lie with the competitors. Now, we'll see how Microsoft has implemented this concept of S-curve, as well as the model which we just saw, connecting learning, knowledge management, and innovation. Now, in the handout which I have given, there is an innovation process chart for the operating system industry right from 1960 to 2000. Now, Apple and Microsoft started almost at the similar time, but Apple launched its first personal computer, Lisa. Now, Apple at that point of time thought that it was obviously a better technology, and therefore would soon become the industry standard. And therefore they charged a premium price. The first Apple Lisa, which came out in the marketplace back in early 80s, was worth $16,000. And most important thing to note here is that they didn't have the capability of distribution. The capability of distribution at that time was with the PC manufacturers like IBM and HP, and they didn't license their particular operating system to IBM and HP. And that was one of the reasons why Apple Lisa failed in the marketplace. In the meantime, Microsoft developed its own operating system, MS-DOS, and then they came up with Windows. And they licensed their operating system to IBM and HP, realizing that they don't have the capability of distribution. And that is one of the reasons why it completely took off and became a leader in the operating system industry. And over time, we have seen that from 1995, after Windows 95 was introduced, they followed the S-curve concept to the very core, and they kept innovating, realizing that the marketplace is changing very fast, and that's why they introduced new versions of Windows every 2 or 3 years, right from after Windows 95, Windows 98, 2000, Windows XP, and then Windows Vista. And this showed up in the market to book value, if you notice, right from 1990 to 1999, which is completely taken off, and the operating profit. And Apple somewhere even went in loss during mid-1990s because they were not an innovative company at that point of time. And from an early period where Microsoft and Apple had similar competitive positioning in the market, Microsoft took a huge chunk of the market and became the undisputable leader, enjoying that kind of a competitive positioning in the marketplace. And that also shows on the share prices of Microsoft, which after 1995 you'll see that has completely gone up to a greater heights compared to its competitors. And that brings us to the conclusion of my presentation, that innovation today is not just a process, but is becoming more a culture in the organization. And Apple is an example of that, that it's deeply embedded in the culture of organization and helps them manage this state of discontinuous change. And with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Well done.
Any questions?
Questions?
Yep.
Yes. All right. To my thinking, innovation should bring something to the organization that will be different from competitors, and the key is it's got to be visionary, isn't it? So, do you think that, and how learning can help an organization to be visionary?
Yes, I think learning can definitely help you be a visionary. And I'm sorry, can I have your question again?
Yeah, here I refer to your here the connecting knowledge management, learning, and innovation.
Yeah.
And here I'm understanding that learning can induce innovation, isn't it?